straight down the middle. Then it started to hook just a wee bit, and that's when my caddy lost sight of it.
Hi, this is Kelly Elvin at Golf Life Navigators. Thanks so much for joining us for yet another episode of Voices of the Game, where we spend a few minutes reminiscing about the great game of golf with some of the outstanding media who've covered our game down through the years. Delighted to be joined today at the 100th PGA Championship by my friend Craig Dolch. Craig, thanks for joining us.
Kelly, my pleasure. I don't think we'll make it to the 200th PGA Championship.
But we got this far, right?
Yeah, we've got this going for us.
We're at Belle Reef Country Club outside of St. Louis. It's the eve of the first round. Craig Dolch has covered this game since 1982. You've seen his writing through the Palm Beach Post for many years. You've seen him on Golf Channel, number of spots there. Craig is also, along with Nolan Murphy, do a weekly Honda Classic Live radio show, 2-hour show out of West Palm Beach. Hey, but what's that like? What was that transition like going from being a print guy into the radio world? You've enjoyed that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, for me, words are pretty much the same whether you write them or speak them. But just being so lucky. I mean, if you're going to cover professional golf, South Florida is the place to be. Very, very thrilled to be down there and just see the kind of history of the game happen in front of your eyes.
Well, and the history of the game and the history of the Honda Classic, Craig, of how that's evolved, certainly since it's gone over now. It's been 10 years or so since it's gone over to PGA National. The flourishing of that event has been nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah, I think 15, 20 years ago, we wondered if the Honda Classic was still going to be around. I could not give tickets away to my friends back then. Nobody wanted to go to the tournament. It was in Fort Lauderdale. It kept getting moved around. Heck, one year it got moved around because of a bar mitzvah being held at Weston Hills. So,
oy vey.
Yeah, exactly. You know things aren't going well, but certainly moving it up to PGA National and getting Ken Kennerly and the Nicholas family, the healthcare foundation involved, that has turned the tournament around, and I'd say it's easily one of the top 5 or 6 non-major events on the PGA Tour.
No question about it. Mentioned earlier that 1982 is when you first started covering golf. A year later, 1983, the Ryder Cup was played at PGA National Resort in Palm Beach Gardens, and while we're here in 2018 at the PGA Championship, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen next month at the Ryder Cup that's going to be played outside of Paris. In fact, we're watching the Golf Channel. They're talking as much about Ryder Cup as they are about this event here at Belle Reef. Craig, 1983, though, that was a vastly different golf landscape when it came to the Ryder Cup, and I know you remember.
Oh, absolutely. I remember going out to PGA National early in the week, and you knew it was, an international event, but going into that week, the Americans had won 18 of the last 19 matches. So there was not a whole lot of drama as to what was going to happen. It was a far different animal back then. It was not, you didn't get 3 days of television. You didn't get, like you said, this has been building up for almost a year. That's all people are talking about. And even now it's, the 8 finalists, the 8 automatic picks happen after Sunday's final round. And then Captain Jim Furyk makes 3 picks a couple tournaments after that, the FedEx, and then the final pick. And there's going to be, even after the 8 automatic picks are going to be made, there's still going to be a lot of speculation. And it is something that's just evolved into one of the world-class sporting events out there.
No, it really has. But in 83, there wasn't a particular amount of drama, although Lanny Watkins certainly, with his long-remembered and long-showed wedge shot at 18 to secure the win for the U.S., that punctuated that event. But even you covering the darn event had trouble seeing the event. Can you explain that? It's almost incomprehensible.
Well, going into that week, the last 5 Ryder Cups held in America, the United States team had won by an average of almost 9 points. So it had not been close. It had just been a formality. It was almost like a ceremonial thing. But you knew things were a little different that week because the Europeans team, they were tied after day 1. They were tied after day 2. So going into the singles on Sunday, it was finally, for the first time in 20 years, a competition, and you didn't know who was going to win. And I remember going into the media room at the PGA National, and the golf wasn't even on the TV in the media room because it was Sunday. It was October 16th, 1983, and that was also the same day that the World Series was being finished. The Baltimore Orioles beat the Philadelphia Phillies 5-0 that afternoon. So somebody wanted to watch the World Series. The Dolphins were playing the Jets that day up in New York. The Dolphins won that day 32-14 with Dan Marino throwing 3 touchdown passes. And people wanted to watch the Dolphin game. And we're like, do you mind putting the golf on here? Because we're kind of here to cover the golf.
The event you're covering is not on TV.
No, we had to lobby and argue to get that on because the volunteers in the media center wanted to watch other events. But we kind of knew we probably needed to watch this, particularly with 12 singles. You need to you can't be 12 different places.
Right.
But, I mean, from the first match, Fuzzy Zeller played against Seve Ballesteros in the first match. And we had one of the riders go out, and I was covering the main event, so I couldn't cover just one match. And it was crazy because by the time they got to the 18th hole, the second group was on about the 13th hole. They had played so fast; they were 4 and 5 holes ahead of everybody else. People in the gallery saying they were actually having to run on par 5s to keep up with the players because Fuzzy is a notoriously fast player, and Seve played fast. And Bernhard wasn't in the second group, but he was in the third group, so there was quite a gap there. But to watch this thing kind of unfold, and you could see that this thing was going to come down to the wire here.
And Captain Jack Nicklaus, not literally but figuratively, in his backyard, having lived in Palm Beach County for a long time, the event at PGA National, did he feel a bit of pressure? Was that something for him, knowing that this was going to be close and coming down to the wire? How important was it for him to win that? Well,
I think a big part, he lives just 5 miles away from PGA National over in Lost Tree. So for him, it truly was a home game. You look at, the Americans had never lost at home. He did not want to be the first guy to do that. So, but by the same point, too, Jack was such a gentleman when it came to that competition. He didn't even play in his first couple Ryder Cups because he did not have his grade A professional PGA status.
That's
so
right.
He didn't even play. It really wasn't that big a deal back then. But, he was the one, because it was becoming so one-sided, to say, look, let's just don't make this Great Britain. Let's incorporate Europe. So it shows you the sportsmanship. He wanted to be more competitive for the other guys, even though that meant there was less a chance of the United States winning. He just said this is not really much of a competition. So certainly he did not want to be losing a home game. And, when I was talking about the Seve match, Jack was out there. I'll never forget this. Seve had hit his tee shot on 18th, par 5, and he'd hooked it a little left. And there was a huge, it was in the bunker.
Right.
And he had to either, most people thought he was going to lay up.
Yeah.
And then just play safe. Jack thought he was going to lay up. Jack is actually in a cart about 30, 40 yards away from Seve up on the left-hand side.
Right.
And Seve decides he's going to go for the green. And he kind of starts pointing at Jack like, Jack, you need to move your cart, because Jack didn't think there was any way he was, any chance he was in the way.
And did they have that, was that sucker pin on the far right on 18 that day?
It was far left.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Seve decides to hit this shot with a 3-wood out of the bunker. It's a pretty deep face, so it's not just, a flat bunker. And so Jack backs his cart up out of the way, and Seve hits this low screaming, kind of a left to right shot that ended up getting on the edge of the green. I mean, Jack to this day says it's probably one of the best shots he's ever seen, certainly in a Ryder Cup. Certainly on the 18th hole, when you got that situation where if you don't pull it off, you can knock it in the water, you could hit it the face of the bunker, and the match, because him and Fuzzy were tied at that point. So
right.
It was coming down to the stretch, and they wound up both making a birdie on the hole, so they halved the hole. But to see, it's one of the few times I think Jack's ever kind of like, I'm in the way out here, that he just thought there was no shot at all that Seve would even try the shot, but then that Seve would be able to pull off the shot.
Well, Seve was a magician, wasn't he?
Yeah, he obviously lived for those moments.
Yeah.
For him that was probably easy. They didn't have to move cars out of the way. They didn't have to get on his knees and try and do some crazy shot. But that was just, that showed you how amazing. And again, now that got done, and now you're going back. The rest of the matches are, from the 7th hole maybe up to 13, because they were spread out. So it was a shot that I know Jack will never forget.
One that he'll never forget, How about the shot that Lanny Watkins hits at 18 with the wedge that clinches it for you, having covered a lot of golf? Got to rank fairly high of one of the more dramatic shots considering the circumstances.
Well, late in the Ryder Cup matches that afternoon, the United States was losing. And it didn't appear they were going to have a chance to win. And Tom Watson, who was the only player to play 5 matches that week, now we're used to seeing Tiger play 5 matches, and whether it's Phil, I mean, a lot of the stalwarts of the team play 5 matches almost every Ryder Cup, but he was the only guy on that team to make it. He was able to win the 17th hole. He won 2 straight holes, so he was able to get the victory. And now it comes down to Lanny Watkins, who's playing Jose Maria Canizares, and Lanny's 1 down going to the 18th hole. So after figuring out all the math, he needed to win that hole to have the match. And if he did that, then the United States would win 14.5 to 13.5. Lanny laid up on his second shot to go to his bread and butter, and he had a sand wedge coming in, and he hit it to like a foot. And I don't want to say the place went nuts because there wasn't, maybe a couple thousand people there,
right,
but the team went nuts.
Sure.
I mean, they were going crazy. Jack ran out and actually kissed the ground there where Lanny had hit the shot. And, I mean, to see these guys that, golfers are usually so buttoned down.
Yeah.
To see all of them just erupt on the 18th fairway, it was just something you'll never see in golf again. And I'll tell you, if people ever get a chance to watch a replay of the 1983 Ryder Cup, you have to watch it because it was just an amazing last hour and a half of competition.
You could just YouTube that, right?
Yeah, I think so. And, what's amazing is Lanny's looked at as such a hero, and he should be because he was in a tough spot,
yeah,
but he didn't win the match,
He halved it.
You go back to Justin Leonard.
Yeah.
He's considered another star,
right,
heroic performance in the Ryder Cup when he beat Jose Maria Olazabal and on that 17th hole with the long putt. Well, Justin didn't win the match either. He halved the match. So sometimes it's not the guys who win that you get remembered for.
Yeah.
And even Mark Kalkovecki, he's always remembered for that unfortunate late fade against Colin Montgomery.
Oh my gosh, at Kiowa.
But that was only a half. He didn't lose the match.
Yeah.
He still had
Was he
the
like
match.
4 up at one point or 5 up?
Yeah, he lost either the last 3 or 4 holes to Monty. And but it's amazing that Justin and Cal got the same number of points in the singles, but they're remembered vastly different of how they did it.
As we close this walk down memory lane with Craig Dolch, Craig, we've talked a lot about what the Ryder Cup was back in '83. As we sit here at the PGA Championship 2018, a month or so before the Ryder Cup outside of Paris, give me a projection, give me a pick. Who wins? U.S. versus Europe, and why?
Well, I would love to pick the United States because I am American. But you go back. I always, in life, trends seem to last longer than you think. And the biggest challenge they have this year is they have not won on foreign soil in a quarter century, 25 years. And that's what makes it difficult. You go back, 1993 is the last time. And to play, even though the Americans have got some great players with Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, not a lot of these guys have played on the road in the Ryder Cup.
That's true.
And I think that's going to be
a different ball game, isn't it?
Right, and I think that's going to change what Jim Furyk does with some of his picks. You look at guys, rookies like Xander Schauffele, Kevin Kisner. I mean, rookies in terms of if they were to make the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Tony Finau. I think it's going to be hard for him to pick a lot of those young guys that have not played. Even Bryson DeChambeau, who may get on the team, he's a 9th spot, so he's only 1 spot away from qualifying. But that, I think, is going to make it difficult. And certainly the Europeans have an awful lot of firepower. With you look at the Open Championship, all the guys, with Rory being second, Francesco Molinari winning. They've got some great players over there. John Rahm. I would think it's going to be very similar. It's going to come down to the singles, and it's kind of a flip of the coin. But I think I'm going to go with Europe. My heart's with the Americans, but it's just hard to beat 25 years. Even though the American Ryder Cup system is in a much better place after they did the task force.
No question about it.
The players now have much more of a say as to what happens.
And the continuity of the captains, of having the guys there year after year, as opposed to a new group of vice captains every year.
Well, yeah, you go back again to '83, and then the Americans lost at the Belfry in '85, and then they came back to Muirfield, where Jack, and lost in 1987. Well, Tony Jacklin had been the European captain 4 consecutive Ryder Cups. And that is the type of continuity the Americans were lacking.
Yeah.
They finally were able to solve that. I think from now on you're going to see all the captains will have been vice captains, and the captains may then serve as vice captains after they've been a captain. It is a different machine now, the way that PGA of America is operating it. And, I really think it's going to be a fabulous match, and it will come down to the last couple matches on Sunday, I believe.
And who makes the most putts, right?
Yeah, and I think, Europe, it's tough because they, it's a very decided advantage to play at home on the Ryder Cup, because not only do you have 90% of the fans rooting for you, you get to set up the golf course the way you want to set it up, and that is a big part of, I think if you let the guys come out here and set up the golf course, on the PGA Tour the way they wanted to, it would be a quite different story some weeks.
Craig Dolch, you've been a big part of covering our games since 1982. Thank you for your time today, your thoughts. You're looking ahead to the Ryder Cup. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it.
That was Craig Dolch joining us for Voices of the Game. This is Kelly Elvin with Golf Life Navigators. Thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you at the club.